Okay, tonight is Genesis chapter 37.
And Jacob dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah, and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him, and could not speak peaceably unto him.
Okay, so the previous chapter, we read chapter 36, was the story of Esau and his descendants. Now 37 starts with the story of Jacob and his descendants. Right? As you can see, Jacob dwelt in the land of Canaan, right? And now it says, these are the generations of Jacob. The previous chapter started out with these are the generations of Esau. This one, these are the generations of Jacob. And in particular, it's going to start with part of the story of one of his sons named Joseph. All right? Joseph was actually his 11th son, but the firstborn of Rachel, his beloved wife. Right? So as we're going to see, that's going to play into even this part of the story. Right? So now it mentions that Joseph is 17 years old starting out, which later on is going to mention his age later on, so it gives you some ideas to time passing. So, but at this time he's 17 years old. It says, and it appears he had a little job to do. All right, it says that he was feeding the flock with his brothers. All right, and it says Joseph brought unto his father their evil report. All right, so in other words, it almost seemed like he was the spy, right, for his father. That he had his father's ear. He was the father's favorite, so he would go and work with the brothers, and then would come back and say, you know what this one did, and they kind of are not really doing it the way you want them to, or whatever. All right, that he was reporting back to his father what was happening. Right now, in verse 3, I mean, like I said, I made the comment that Joseph was his favorite. Right, sometimes people just say those kind of things, for whatever reason. That was your favorite. Here in 3, it says it. All right, it says Israel loved Joseph more than all his children. All right, so Joseph was his favorite. And it says now it says here because he was the son of his old age. All right, but actually that's not totally the reason. All right, because he even had one more son after that, which was Benjamin. All right, but it says that Joseph was his favorite. Right. Joseph was the firstborn of Rachel, his beloved wife. Right? Now, the firstborn in most families, wound up being the favorite. Now, he was not the firstborn overall, but as far as Jacob was concerned, Rachel was his real wife. So all these other ones, I hate to say that about your own sons, but all these others were placeholders until he finally had a son with the real wife who he loved. All right? So Joseph was his favorite. All right? And so that's not a supposition on my part. It says it right here in verse 3. Right? Loved him more than all his other children, and he made him a coat of many colors. Right? Those who read the story of Joseph, in Sunday school, that's what they remember. Joseph was the one with the coat of many colors. Right? There was a Broadway play, Joseph and the Technicolor dream coat. Right? So that's what he's known for, the coat of many colors. That's how he became to be known even there. That I'm sure that if he wore that out and about, anybody seeing him, his brothers or whoever, there's Joseph with the coat of many colors. All right, it was a visible sign that he was the favorite son. Which, that being the case, what happens in verse 4 should be no surprise. It says when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all of them, they hated him. It says and could not speak peaceably unto him. I mean, it's the kind of thing where, as a parent, it's really not a good thing to favor one child over another, especially to visibly and obviously favor them. I guess your feelings are your feelings, but to take, in this case, out of 12 sons and say, this one's my favorite, here, I'm giving you this special coat, nobody else gets that because they have a special gift, only you because you're my favorite. What do you expect to happen? The other brothers were jealous. It says they hated him and they couldn't even speak peaceably to him because they saw that he was the favorite of their father.
And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. And he said unto them, Hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, And lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about, and made obeisance to my sheaf. And his brethren said to him, Shalt thou indeed reign over us? Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words.
Okay, so here Joseph dreams a dream, and he shares it with his brothers. Right, and then in verse 5 says, and they hated him yet the more. Now, based on the dream, you're going to see why they would have hated him yet the more. All right, because he says, here's the dream. It says, we were binding sheaves in the field. Sheaves would be like you gather grain, you put it in bundles. It says, and lo, my sheaf arose and stood upright, and all of your sheaves stood round about and made obeisance. In other words, that they bowed down, that way to my sheaf. Right, so the brothers go crazy. It's like, well, what are you telling us? You're going to reign over us, or you're going to have dominion over us, right? So we're going to be bowing down to you. Are you out of your mind? You're the younger brother. You're 17 years old. You're telling your older brothers eventually we're going to bow down to you. So they hated him all the more, and perhaps rightly so. And now you might ask, why would Joseph have told this dream to them, right? I mean, he couldn't have imagined it was going to make them happy. It's like, oh, isn't that cool? I think, it's my opinion, my feeling is that I think he did it innocently. He may not have even grasped the full, meaning or impact of what he was going to share with them. I just, hey, I had a dream, and let me tell you my dream, and this is what happened. And then not even maybe thinking it through. We're trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. Otherwise, he's like throwing gasoline on the fire here. They can't stand him here with his coat of many colors. Now he's going to give them a dream that says that they're all going to be bowing down to him. Right? You have to know that they're not going to react well to this. So let's assume he did it innocently, right? Just told them the dream, and just because he had a dream, and it was just conversation. But as you see, they said, "Oh, we're going to bow down to you." They hated him even more.
And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. And he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him, and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee to the earth? And his brethren envied him, but his father observed the saying.
And now he has another dream. It's like doubling down on the first one. Right? It says he's dreamed another dream, where in this one it says the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. All right? So, the sun and the moon and 11 stars are now bowing down to him. And now he tells this to his father as well as his brothers. Right? And now his father sees the meaning of this. The 11 stars obviously would have been Joseph's 11 brothers, but who's the sun and the moon? His parents, right? That's why he says his father rebuked him and said, "Well, wait a minute. So me and your mother and your brothers are all gonna bow down to you? Is that what you're saying?" So he wasn't really happy to hear this either, right? And now I would point out that it mentions his mother. Now of course Joseph's mother is Rachel. Now, assuming that these chapters are arranged in chronological order, then Rachel has already passed away by now. In fact, if he has 11 brothers, and obviously when the last brother was born, Rachel had died. But when a woman died, a mother died, in essence, somebody else would have filled in for her. So most likely, maybe Leah would have been serving as the mother to Joseph and Benjamin, since their real mother was gone at this point. So, regardless, whoever it was, all right, that was now the sun and the moon would have been the mother and the father and mother. So Jacob's like, what? So now we're all going to bow down to you, your parents and your brothers, all right? Now 11 says his brethren envied him. Of course they were upset, they were jealous, whatever. It says, but his father observed the same, right? So don't want to lose sight of that, right? Even though in verse 10 it says his father rebuked him, and it's like, what? But yet, it's not his fault he's having the dream, all right? He's just telling them the dream. So that's why he says his father observed the saying, and perhaps remembered it later to say, that could well be what's going to happen in the future. Not thrilled with it, but he's just telling us what he dreamt. And so the interpretation seems obvious, so that's why he says he observed it, and he was the man of God. So he's thinking this is what God is showing him, this may well be in our future.
And his brethren went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said unto Joseph, Do not thy brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send thee unto them. And he said to him, Here am I. And he said to him, Go, I pray thee, see whether it be well with thy brethren, and well with the flocks, and bring me word again. So he sent him out of the vale of Hebron, and he came to Shechem.
Okay, so here the brothers have gone out to feed their father's flock in a place called Shechem. And now, we should point out that Shechem was the city that what happened in chapter 34 occurred, where it was their sister was raped, and that they went into that city and killed the men. So this may not have been a place where they would have necessarily wanted to have been hanging out, but yet apparently they had flock there, right? And I only mention that because now in 13, when Israel, where Jacob says to Joseph, your brothers are feeding the flock in Shechem, maybe you better go check and make sure that they're okay. All right, so that's why he sends them out. He says, Go, I pray thee, see whether it be well with thy brethren and well with the flocks, and bring me back word as to how it is. All right, remember Joseph was kind of like the spy or the reporter. So he says, maybe you better just go make sure everything is okay. I mean, the last time in that city, it didn't end well. It was not pretty. So maybe you better just go make sure everything is okay. It should also be pointed out, though, that notice Joseph is at home and the brothers are out doing this work. So Joseph is the favorite. He just didn't have to do that kind of labor. And that, as we're going to see later, he would typically wear his coat of many colors to go out to different places. Well, this was not a coat to work in. It was a coat to just, walk around in. So he's going to go out wearing this particular coat. So yeah, he was not expected to be doing the manual labor the other brothers were doing, because he was the favorite.
And a certain man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, What seekest thou? And he said, I seek my brethren. Tell me, I pray thee, where they feed their flocks. And the man said, They are departed hence, for I heard them say, Let us go to Dothan. And Joseph went after his brethren, and found them in Dothan. So
Joseph arrives in Shechem to look for the brothers, and lo and behold, they're not there. All right, it says, but you think of the time that it's just land and so forth, and it's not like there's any method of communication, telephones or cell phones or whatever. So you show up and they're not there. Where are they? Where'd they go? All right, and yet God provided. All right, it says in 15, a certain man found him, Joseph, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man said, who are you looking for? I'm looking for my brothers, where they feed the flocks. Now, the man tells him where they are. It says, they left here. I heard them say, let us go to Dothan, wherever that is. And so Joseph went there and found his brothers there. Now, does God provide or what? Like I said, he happens to encounter this man. Then the man asks him, who are you looking for? He tells him, oh yeah, I heard them say they were going to Dothan. How did he hear them say it? Was he, like I said, it's an interesting story. So you almost wonder whether this was like an angel, really, who was sent to direct Joseph to the right place, because otherwise it's a whole series of coincidences. He happens to find this man, the man happens to ask him who he's looking for. He happens to know, somehow he overheard where they were going, and it was the right place. When Joseph was going to go to Dothan, that's where he's going to find his brothers.
And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. And they said one to another, Behold, this dreamer cometh. Come now, therefore, and let us slay him, and cast him into some pit, and we will say, Some evil beast hath devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams.
Okay, so now begins a part of the story that'll reverberate for years. All right, it says Joseph is headed to meet up with his brothers. It says, when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. Right? Now, how do they know he was coming from far away? A coat of many colors, all right? That, so they see the little figure on the horizon, but that coat was unmistakable. They said, oh, look who's coming, Mr. Coat of many colors. Mr. Dreamer, as it says in 19, behold, this dreamer cometh, right? apparently, again, he's walking obviously, so I mean, it took, a little bit of time for him to actually arrive. In the time it took though, from when they saw him to when he got there, they said, this is it, he's coming to spy on us, all right, he's going to report back to our father. There he is with that coat of many colors and mocks us, all right, so they said, we've had it, we're going to kill him, all right. Terrible, but that's what they say. He says, come now therefore, let's slay him, let's kill him, we'll throw him in a pit, we'll say some evil beast devoured him, and then we'll see what becomes of his dreams. Right? So in other words, saying that, yeah, he's having all these dreams and we're going to bow down to him. All right, let's put an end to that right now. We'll kill him today, and then we'll never have to bow down to him because he'll be gone. He'll be out of our life. So it's pretty evil. All right, but so just so we know who's involved. All right, I mean, Joseph had 11 brothers total, but the youngest Benjamin would have been probably about 10 years old this time, so he's not out there with them. All right, and then also based on the verses that follow, it appears that Reuben is not part of this because he comes upon the scene after this. All right, so most likely it was the other 9 brothers, and if I had to guess, I would say, okay, so if Reuben wasn't involved, then it was probably the next 2 oldest were the ringleaders at this point, Simeon and Levi, which so happens were the 2 that led the charge into Shechem and killed all the men. So it sounds like they weren't too nice, all right? They were pretty mean. They killed all those men then, and they're willing to now get their brothers to kill their brother Joseph today. And I would point out there at the end of verse 20, it says their story is going to be some evil beast has devoured him. I mean, that was a reasonable story, right? There were lions and bears and so forth in the area, so they said that some animal ate him up. There were those kind of animals around, so that was even a plausible story as to how he would have been gone.
And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and said, let us not kill him. And Reuben said unto them, shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him out of their hands, to deliver him to his father again. And it came to pass, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors that was on him, and they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty, there was no water in it.
Now in verse 21 it says Reuben now returns and hears them plotting this, right? So he's like, oh no, he didn't want to see his brother killed. So he says, no, let's, don't kill him. And he offers an alternative in 22. He says, don't shed blood, cast him into this pit here. Just throw him into the pit here. That's enough. And I guess with the idea that they would leave him there, all right. But as it mentions in the rest of 22, his real plan was that he might rid him out of their hands, or rescue him from these bloodthirsty brothers, and to then come back later and get him out of the pit to bring him home. So Reuben appeared to have, I'll say, good intentions in trying to save Joseph. I mean, he's dealing with a bloodthirsty mob, so to be too much confronting them, I mean, they could turn on him also. So he says, all right, just throw him in the pit. You don't have to kill him. Throw him in the pit. That's good enough. Maybe saying some animal will come and finish him off. Don't kill him yourself. But he did have his own plan to come back later to rescue him. All right. So now 23, he arrives. Finally, Joseph is there. All right, and it just sounds like they didn't hesitate. It says when Joseph came, they took him out of his coat, that coat of many colors, and they put him in the pit. Now this particular pit was known as a cistern, which is a place normally to capture like rainwater that can be used for various purposes. But it noticed it was empty, right? So they weren't drowning him, all right? But he went into the empty pit. They took off that coat, which was again like waving a red flag in front of them. Even seeing that. Also, they had a plan to use that coat later to bring it back to their father to, as we know, to say that they found this and it was part of their plot to say what had really happened to Joseph.
And they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead with their camels, bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said unto his brethren, what profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brethren were content. Then there passed by Midianites, merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph into Egypt.
So now, picture the scene here, okay? They've thrown Joseph in the pit, right? I'm sure he's like yelling, come on, let me out of here, all right? And all the time he's trying to call them to get them to release him. It says they sit down to have lunch. Right? It says in 25 they sat down to eat bread, and while they're eating, they said, "Hey, look." It says here comes a company of Ishmaelites, all right, with the camels and so forth. They're on their way to Egypt. It's a caravan. All right. So in 26, Judah says, here's a way we can make some money on this, all right? And now maybe if you want to say, well, it was a better alternative than killing him, you could give a little bit of credit there. But mostly it was like, you know what? We can kill two birds with one stone here. We don't have to kill him. We can still be rid of him, and we can make money on it. It says, what profit is it if we just kill him, all right, and try to make up some story? Let's sell him there. And then it says, let not our hand be upon him. He is our brother in flesh, all right. So we don't want to really have to be killing him. So let's just sell him. He's out of our life. We get money for it. It says, and his brethren agreed. All right, so good idea. Right, better than killing him. Sell him. He's out of our lives, and we even get money as a result of doing this. And so in verse 28, it says they lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and they sold him for 20 pieces of silver, and this caravan brought Joseph into Egypt. So sure enough, he was out of their lives. Right, they had some money to show for it, but mainly they wanted to be rid of him because he was the favorite, and they hated him, and they wanted him out of their life. They didn't want to hear about his dreams and how they were going to bow down to him. So now he's out of their lives, and they can move on with their life from here.
And Reuben returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, and he rent his clothes, and he returned unto his brethren and said, the child is not, and I, whither shall I go? And they took Joseph's coat, and killed a kid of the goats, and dipped the coat in the blood. And they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father, and said, this have we found. Know now whether it be thy son's coat or no. And he knew it, and said, it is my son's coat. An evil beast hath devoured him. Joseph is without doubt rent in pieces.
Okay, so wherever Reuben kept going away to, right? Apparently, that apparently he wasn't there when this happened, right? Because again, his intention was to come back later and get Joseph out of the pit and bring him back home. So here at 29 says Reuben returned to the pit, and Joseph wasn't in there. Oh no! Where did he go? And so it says he went to his brothers and said, where is he? Right? So I guess the brothers weren't there. They had moved on to somewhere else by then. So picture the scene. Reuben goes back to the pit. Okay, everybody's gone. All right, it's safe now to get Joseph out. He's not there. Where did he go? All right, and so he goes and asked them, and I guess they told him, we sold him. He's gone. He's on his way to Egypt. So at this point, I guess the options were limited. So they come up with a story, all right, as to how to explain to their father what happened. And obviously, he sent Joseph out to check on them, and now they're going to come back without him. All right. So as you see, it says they took Joseph's coat, they killed a kid of the goats, and dipped the coat in the blood. All right. So they put blood on the coat, and then had it brought to their father to show him the coat. And of course, they were acting innocent about it, but this is the coat of many colors. Everybody knew this was Joseph's coat, all right? So it says it was brought to their father. They said, look, look, we found this, all right? And it has blood on it. Do you recognize this coat? And then, of course, in 33 it says he knew it. It says it's my son's coat, and an evil beast has devoured him, all right? So no doubt Joseph has been torn into pieces, right? How horrible, to think about that for any of your sons. But here, this was his favorite son, the one who he loved, the firstborn of his beloved Rachel. And to see this is all that's left of him is this special coat that just has his blood on it. This was before they had DNA testing. So DNA testing would have said it was a goat's blood, not human blood. But too early for that, right? So he saw blood on it. He says Joseph has been killed by some wild animal. How terrible that he would have to experience that. And the brothers were okay with that, apparently, and telling the story and watching their father suffer just for the sake of knowing that Joseph was out of their lives at this point.
And Jacob rent his clothes and put sackcloth upon his loins and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, for I will go down into the grave unto my son mourning. Thus his father wept for him. And the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and captain of the guard.
So 34, you see Jacob now in mourning, rents his clothes, puts on sackcloth, mourned for his son for many days. All right, the sons and the daughters says go to try to to comfort him, which again must have been an odd dynamic, right? Since they knew what had happened and they knew that they caused it, but you guys, oh, it'll be okay, don't worry. All right, well, here they had caused it, so they just try to do their best to comfort their father. Did they have any second thoughts about it now? Who knows? But it's too late. He's already gone, as it says in 36. Just to end up with what happened to Joseph. It says that the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and captain of the guard. Right. So here he was sold as a slave for 20 pieces of silver, which was kind of the going rate for slaves at the time. And he was brought to a man named Potiphar, all right, who was when we purchased him, the captain of the guard of Pharaoh. And of course, as we know, that's not the end of the story. It's going to pick up in a later chapter. And actually, as we continue reading, chapter 38 goes on to some other story, but then we'll be back. Chapter 39 will begin with Joseph being in the house of Potiphar and see how God uses him there.